Hi, we're Quentin and Curious Volumes. My name is James. Today is Friday. It's also the beginning of the month of August. So I'm going to talk a bit about my plans for the month of August. Do kind of a Friday reads. Something I've invented. I'm coming up with this idea. It's hashtag Friday reads. I hope it will catch on. Um, and this week I finished reading Guermantes from In Search of Lost Time. I did a response video to that earlier in the week. I tried something new, which was to do a Poetry Thursday post, which I did yesterday. If you're interested in seeing me read an A.R. Ammons poem that has one naughty word repeated over and over again, check that out. And I don't know if I'll keep doing it. I'm kind of looking around for other poems that might fit the theme of Garb August, meaning the booktube event in which people read so-called trash in the month of August. Don't have a. I'm not that interested in so-called trash or guilty pleasure kind of reading. Um, I often find when I do read things like that, I get a little impatient with it. I don't enjoy it to be often. I mean, I don't want to be like, well, I only read the classics. And I mean, I read classics, but sometimes I don't enjoy those either. But anyway, what I mean to say is I don't think I'm going to be doing a lot of Garb August reading myself. But what I am planning to read in the month of August is I'm going to continue with this very long biography of Arthur Ashe. I'm finding that this book by Mr. Raymond Arsenault is very detailed, and I'm much more interested in his life off the court than the details of every match that he plays. And this book definitely gives you every match that he plays, seemingly. So it's gotten a little bit slow in parts for me, but it's still really interesting reading. It goes into a lot of what's going on in the United States. I'm a little bit past the part where the previous book that I read about Arthur Ashe, Levels of the Game, where that took place. So that was the 1968 U.S. Open in Forest Hills. So I'm a little bit past that. He's already won that title, and now he's kind of on. He's very much in the public eye. He's friends with Bill Cosby. And he's getting magazine stories written about him, and is kind of very much a glamorous figure, but still, and his political consciousness is definitely evolving. In fact, he wrote, or he did, a sort of as told to memoir called Advantage Ashe in like 1967 or 68. And even by the time it came out, he was somewhat more, I guess, awakened, you would say, more woke than he was when that book was being prepared. By the time it came out in press, he was a little more activated, a little more radical in his views on the course of the civil rights movement. So we're in like 1968, 69 is the point that I'm up to now. So very exciting stuff happening in American culture, in the world of professional tennis, believe it or not, and in the life of Arthur Ashe. So enjoying that, a lot of stuff. Not that into who wins which rubber of the Davis Cup, but there you go. I'm also still reading with Steve the Pride and Prejudice for Jane Austen July, now Jane Austen August. He is posting about one chapter a day. I like to kind of let them stack up a bit so I can spend a couple of hours just going through them in an evening and with the book. But that's a lot of fun. That's on Steve Donahue's channel. His read through of Pride and Prejudice, where he actually reads the text one chapter at a time and gives his verbal annotations, and he does have many annotations to some of these. It's a lot of fun. So what I'm going to be reading in this coming month, I showed this in my Counting the Days tag, Member of the Wedding by Carson McCullers. One of my commenters, P. Krabs, said that she had just read this and wondering what I thought. So I'm putting this up on my list. I'm gonna give this a read, possibly this weekend. And then I've showed both of these before, but I think this is the month for them. So Dune Messiah is probably going to happen this month, and Virginia Woolf's Orlando. So that is my plan this week. I also I read a book called Heavy by Kiese Laymon. It was one of the Time 100 best novels or best books of the 21st century so far. Part of that list. When that came out, I went on Libby. I said, I was looking through, like, do some of these sound interesting? Let's see what's available. That was one. So I put that in there, and it was one that was available immediately. So it is a heavy book. It is a memoir of growing up in Jackson, Mississippi. The author, Kiese Laymon's mother, was a exceptionally well-educated woman, but very poor. She was working on a PhD dissertation. Eventually she finished it and launched a career in academia. But in the meantime, they were really struggling. Although it seems he had a rich inner life and an impoverished outer life. He said their house was full of books, even when but they couldn't always pay the light bill, or the rent, or the water bill, or a lot of deprivation. His father was not in his life for much of it, and there was a lot of crime and abuse going on in the lives of people around him. Also, his mother was very physically abusive to him, even though she was, emotionally she was there for him, and she clearly loved him. A complicated book, very, very, very sad, very hard to read, and he even as he kind of struggles with he overcomes some of his challenges, such as like with overeating, or with overexercising, or gambling. He gets into a lot of different things. Ultimately, he is what you would call a success. He's a famous author. He's a college professor. He's a published writer. But it's incredibly self-lacerating. He writes in some places, about, I wanted to write a lie, and I want you to like that lie. And this is addressed to his mother. The whole book is addressed to his mother, and many times he directly addresses you, and that is his mother. It's worth trying. It's not going to be for everybody, but if you're curious about the list and some of the things on it, Heavy, a memoir by Kiese Laymon, is worth a try. And also, I'm reading another one from that list that also happened to be available on Libby when I checked, which is Exit West by Moshin Hamid. So this is a Kindle read, and I'm almost done with it. So I'll tell you my thoughts on it maybe next week. But it's a short novel about, it's basically about displacement and immigration, but with a sort of science fiction element to it. So it's I guess maybe you'd say magical realism, because it's very much rooted in reality. People have, it focuses on a couple, a man and a woman, Saeed and Nadia, who are meet in a night class in an unnamed city, which is probably in the Middle East somewhere. They never actually name a particular country that they're from, I don't think it even says that they're Muslim, but they're clearly Muslim. Um, and the country that they're in is becoming destabilized. And these things are just kind of, there's, it's vague on the details. It's kind of generalized, but there's unrest and eventually civil disorder. And um, while this is going on, around the world, these kind of portals are opening up in various doorways in people's houses. You go through a door in the closet of your house, and you come out in some other doorway in another part of the world. And apparently these are kind of just opening up in different places, seemingly at random. And people in countries where there is unrest are going through them and hoping to come out in a place where there is more stability. I don't know that that science fiction bit works that well. It's so far it's not really explained. I don't think it needs to be, but the story of their lives as basically refugees in communities of people who are refugees, and the way that they interact with the native people of the place that they come out on, the door that they come out on. That's pretty grounded in what would actually be happening, and what is in fact happening. These days, we don't really even need. It seems it. Okay, here's what I'll say. It seems to me that the science fiction element of the doorways, the exits to the West, are redundant, because we're seeing people from all different countries and cultures in where there is deprivation and unrest showing up in arriving in what used to be called the first world, in places like the United States, in places like England. And one of the things that the portals do in this book is they mix people up, right? So you have people from all different, from Nigeria and from Morocco or whatever, coming out in the same portal in Northern California, and we're seeing that actually in the real world. Flows of migrants these days. People from China coming to America through the Darien Gap, and these strange ways that people are pathways that people are taking. So maybe it's more true than it seems, but that weird element of the portals is kind of unnecessary. I saw a guy on Goodreads who was criticizing this book by saying it's basically Monsters Inc. It's not. That's a bad take, my friend. It's not Monsters Inc. Just because people are transported through a door, it does not make this Monsters Inc. It's but anyway, maybe I've said all I need to say about it here. I have about 2 more chapters of it to read before I can tell you. But that's what I've got going on, and I hope you have a good weekend of reading, a good week of reading, a good month of reading. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later.